never imagined an extra 0.7 ounces on a certified envelope would be the reason my home still has my name on the deed. The call started on a windy Tuesday from Queens. Neighbors said the county site wasn't showing me anymore. Maybe the portal's down, I told them and told myself. After the third call, I drove to my attorney's office with a brown folder I've kept for years. The original deed had a soft crease at the corner. I brought a neat stack of tax receipts and the USPS certified mail tracking slips I tend to save, because paper trails help me sleep. I didn't feel angry, not yet. Mostly I felt a quiet fear I learned as a kid. When someone tells you the house isn't yours, check the roof. Check the locks. Check the names and the dates. Check everything. My attorney is a patient woman named Morales. She slid her reading glasses up and built an outline on a yellow legal pad. What we have, what they claim, what we can prove. She pulled up the county's public records page, and there it was. A new deed recorded 2 weeks ago that said title had transferred from me to a Shell LLC with a patriotic name and a strip mall address. I read the PDF 3 times. Each pass felt colder than the last. The font looked right, and the margins were right. The notary block carried a clean seal, not the fuzzy wash you see on bad forgeries. If I hadn't touched my own paperwork 100 times, I might have believed it too. Morales said we'd need a timeline, the chain of title, and every message I ever received about this property. I laid out the pieces. My original purchase, a later refinance, the satisfaction of mortgage, the tax abatements, and the year the homestead exemption kicked in, and then 2 certified envelopes from the same law firm months apart. One held routine escrow updates. The other was what Morales had mailed to me with compliance documents to sign and return. She flipped the slips over and tapped her pen. You know these list weights, right? I nodded. Certified labels show the timestamp and the ounces. Keep that in mind, she said. If they claim a new corrected copy was mailed to you. Weight matters, I told her about the first hints. A neighbor saw 2 men taking pictures of my stoop while pretending to be appraisers. A scammy postcard said urgent lien matter in red letters with a phone number. That went nowhere. Someone had scraped paint around my mailbox lock like they tried a universal key and gave up. They were small things and easy to shrug off. Until your name vanishes from a database and your chest does not expand the same way when you breathe. We filed a notice of dispute with the county and asked for an emergency hearing. The judge assigned was known for squeezing nonsense out of a courtroom like water out of a sponge. I kept my voice even when I spoke. Anger makes you sloppy, and sloppiness is how liars win. The defense came in with postcard smiles and a glossy binder. Your Honor, they began. Our client properly recorded a deed correcting a prior clerical error. We have a notarized instrument and delivery receipts. The binder's tabs were a nice touch. Colored labels that spelled out valid transfer like they could will it into being. The judge asked me if I had anything to say before we got into the weeds. I stood without rushing and set 3 neat stacks on the table. The original deed and chain, the certified mail receipts, a printout of the new deed's notary details. Your Honor, I said, I don't need to argue. I just need to compare. The projector warmed up. The defense smiled wider like they had already won. I asked the clerk to pull up 2 images side by side. The tracking screenshots for the envelope Morales had sent me 3 months ago, and the one the defense claimed contained the corrected deed 2 weeks back. One read 2.4 Oz, the other 3.1 Oz. Same sender name and return address. Similar date ranges. Different weights. Morales did the explaining. A deed package like ours with 2 originals and a prepaid return reliably hovers around this weight. Their corrected deed claims to be the same content, yet it's 0.7 ounces heavier. Not another brochure, not another rider, not an insert. You can feel 0.7 ounces in your hand. And no, my client did not receive this corrected packet at all. The defense cleared their throat and called it printing variance. The judge did not look convinced. I asked permission to highlight the notary seal. Every commissioned notary has a unique ID, Your Honor. I enlarged the block so the room could see. On my original and on every instrument in the chain, the same office handled authentication for this address. The number on their correction is not in that notary's sequence. Not the font. Not the ring spacing. Not the microtext inside the border. If it is a correction, then it was corrected by a ghost. The defense tried a different tack. The county accepted it, Your Honor. But acceptance is not truth. Clerks do not do forensic analysis. They stamp what arrives with papers that look complete. The first crack in the defense showed up where cracks always show. In the details. Their messenger who allegedly delivered my signature packet listed a pickup log with a route that went uptown to a building that does not have a staffed lobby on Sundays, the day they claimed. The weight discrepancy became more than a curiosity. It became a wedge that pried their story open. The judge granted a short recess and asked both sides to confer on whether we could resolve this without burning the docket. The defense whispered hard and came back pale. "We'll stipulate to restoring title to the plaintiff," they said, "without prejudice to our claims against the preparer." Translation. The paper they trusted to do their dirty work had burned them. I should have felt triumphant. I mostly felt tired. The kind of tired that lives behind your ribs and ignores coffee. The judge delivered the formal order. Fraudulent deed voided. Title restored. A referral to the DA's office for possible deed fraud and notary misconduct. A gentle lecture to the defense about due diligence. He lowered his glasses and added, "You need a hammer to break a wall, but a fake signature can break a deed." Today, the envelope's weight told the truth. The gavel's knock sounded more like relief than victory. Outside Queens felt different even with the same sun on brick, and the same vendor frying onions on the corner. I ran my hand along the stoop railing my father welded before I was born. The paint is newer. The metal is not. My mother used to press her palm to the door on cold mornings, like she could warm the house through wood. A stranger might call it sentimental. I call it evidence. Not for court, but for myself. This place has our fingerprints. I breathed in slow and told the house out loud. We're still here. If this is going on YouTube, and it is, I want it told in plain words, so anyone sitting in a small kitchen with a bad letter in their hand can understand what to do next. Here is how to make a story like this land with viewers who need it. Start with the beat that matters. Not the legalese, not the jargon. The beat where a number changes a life. 3.10s versus 2.40s. Flash it on screen big and clean. Then pull back and explain chain of title in a sentence. The paper trail that proves who owns a roof and why. Show the notary block for 3 seconds. Close enough to see the seal ID. Say this. Every notary stamp has a fingerprint. If the fingerprint does not match, you do not argue. You compare. I wish I could tell you the scammers were subtle. They rarely are. They used a patriotic LLC and a P.O. box that sounded like a room. They counted on a clerk's stamp to knight their document legitimate. Real estate fraud does not always need a mastermind. Sometimes it just needs a lazy thief and a tired system. What stops it is not an angry speech. It is the right paper in the right order. If you feel small in the face of paperwork, remember what my attorney told me in that fluorescent office. Paper is slow, but it remembers. In the weeks after the hearing, we cleaned up the collateral damage. Morales filed a quiet title action to make sure no downstream buyer could claim good faith later. We placed a fraud alert on the parcel number. We asked the county to require in-person ID verification for any future transfer involving my address. I froze my credit and signed up for title monitoring. On the internet, a bad idea rarely dies. It just changes its name. Neighbors started dropping off copies of weird mail they had received. Solicitations with pre-approved cash for keys. Counterfeit tax sale warnings. Urgent claim robocalls. I taped the best examples to a corkboard in my entryway under the heading, How Lies Introduce Themselves. In the video, I will show that board for 2 seconds. You do not need longer. Viewers will recognize the letters they have thrown away and feel that little click in their gut. Okay, this is my story too. I called my sister. She sat with me on video the day the fraudster claimed I signed away my life. She said my habit of saving every slip would pay off. She was right. I do not save paper because I am nostalgic. I save it because memory fades and ink does not. If anyone watching this has ever been told, you don't need to keep that. Let me be the counterexample you can point to and say, actually, sometimes you do. We got a letter from the DA's office a month later. The notary's commission had been suspended pending review. I did not cheer. I do not cheer when a system finally does what it is supposed to do. I put the letter in a folder with a tab labeled Aftermath. The I4. Video will end with that tab closing and a different one. Opening. Prevention. That is where the action items go, because a story that does Not hand the viewer a tool is just a mood. Here is the part I want the narrator to deliver slow, steady, and kind. The way a neighbor talks on a porch. If a deed shows up with your name missing, don't panic and don't sign anything to resolve it. Gather your original deed. Print your tax receipts. Pull your USPS tracking if someone claims you received a corrected copy. Compare weights. Compare notary IDs. Ask the clerk for the recording log and the instrument number. What you are doing is not fancy. It is housekeeping. Sometimes housekeeping saves a house. I think about the judge's line a lot. You need a hammer to break a wall, but a fake signature can break a deed. Walls, signatures, hammers, stamps. These are props in a bigger play. Who belongs where and who gets to decide? People who steal deeds do not just take wood and brick. They take history. They take the quiet agreement a family has with a front door. You close me at night and I will keep you safe. Returning a name to a record is about safety as much as ownership. Tell that in your voiceover. Make sure the music under that line breathes. After the order, I walked to the corner bodega, where the owner has known my coffee order since before my hair went gray. He said I saw the video. 3.1 and 2.4, right? He laughed. A small victorious sound. He slid a pastry across the counter. On the house. For the house. We do not win many big things in life. We win a dozen small ones, and on a good day they add up. One of those wins is knowing how to read your own papers. I will end the upload like this. A quiet shot of the certified label. No drama, no zoom. Just that calm little line that says weight 2.4 Oz. Then a dissolve to the forged envelope mock-up. Weight 3.1 Oz. Then black and this line on screen. The truth does not always shout. Sometimes it weighs exactly what it should. Cut to a simple CTA, keep your documents. Help a neighbor check theirs. Subscribe for more real stories with real receipts. Back at home, I stood in the doorway where my mother used to warm the wood, and I pressed my palm to the panel the way she taught me. The paint is newer. The habit is old. Some habits are worth keeping. Some papers are too. If a storm blows through, Queens next week, and knocks a branch across the stoop, I'll sweep it myself and put the broken limb in the bin and make a fresh pot of coffee and send a copy of this video to the block. Association with a note that says, "We're still here."